to hear my opinion about your album. Welcome to Unwarranted Music Opinions, the show in which three music fans choose an album, we all listen to them over the course of a week, and we reconvene at the end of that week to discuss them. I'm Jacob Lindberg. I'm here with Brian Courtney.
Hey.
Sound a little more excited, won't you, Brian?
Hey.
And Chaz Jenkins.
Hello.
And this week was a regular episode where we were given free reign to choose whatever the heck we wanted, and this week we are going to start with Chaz's album.
So the album I picked is Doghouse Music by Seasick Steve, a pretty popular contemporary blues artist. Seasick Steve growing up was a literal hobo. I think he's probably in his 70s by now. When this album came out, I think he was in his 60s. And he's a very traditional hobo. He talks about it in the album, but...
I love that traditional hobo.
Well, he got arrested a bunch. He hitchhiked all over the place.
Grassroots.
He's pretty much been through it all, so a little bit of context. This album is another middle school classic for me. It's just okay. This is gonna be a weird backstory, but I was at Kings Island once, and I won this poster. This is when I was really starting to get into guitar playing, and it was called Guitar Heroes, and it had a bunch of famous guitars by famous Tom Morello's guitar was on there, Jack White's famous guitar was on there. And Seasick Steve was there, his 3-string guitar. I was like, who's that? 3 strings? That's kind of cool. So I looked into him, and he's a blues artist. And
That is really weird.
You have the best stories of how you discovered artists.
Yeah.
Along with Pain. You know?
So I checked it out, and I actually really liked what I heard. Some of my favorite songs was Doghouse Boogie and Cut My Wings. I listened to those all the time. And I remember listening to the album through road trips. It was a good road trip album. So... a little bit of nostalgia goggles on for this one, coming back to it, but it's just him kind of the thesis statement at the beginning track, Yellow Dog, pretty much sets it up. This is for the album for the fans and the people who've supported me and my friends. It's just him going through some of his experiences back in his day and now, and yeah, it's a pretty decent album. What do you guys think?
I think this album is very nice. I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's one of the greatest albums I've ever heard as far as this genre goes. But I think Seasick Steve is certainly he's got personality, and it kind of is what sells the entire album.
The charisma is overflowing on this album. I think so.
Yeah, and I also really like that he's using this 3-stringed guitar because it kind of gives these tracks in his guitar playing a different vibe. This is a roots blues album recorded in the 21st century. It's nothing new in any way, shape, or form. It is absolutely nothing new, but his personality and his just sort of, on a few tracks here in particular, kind of a more unique sound from the guitar.
He gets so much out of just 3 strings. It's pretty impressive.
It is, yeah.
Playing.
Sometimes you can't even really tell that it's only a 3-string guitar, and it kind of feels like it's a full 6-string,
yeah.
but it is just 3 strings.
Barely
However,
any backing bands except for on a few tracks.
Yeah,
it's literally him just playing and singing.
Yeah, he thanks his fans for his success, but I don't even know if he's in a studio. He's not. There's
I just love how rough that mic is on the first track.
Dude, it is.
He swallows the mic. Testing 1 2 1 2.
Why is the audio quality on that song in particular, right at the beginning, and not for this doesn't take away from the album, but that little introduction, the worst. It's
I love it.
I think
I knew you'd love it, Jacob.
It's probably a studio outtake, a demo kind of outtake sort of thing, because some of these tracks you obviously, when you get the electric guitar and some of the...
I love in Cut My Wings, he's like, hold on, I gotta plug this in first. And then you just hear...
you hear him actually plug it in. That was funny.
Yeah, it's very, it kind of just feels like they put this guy in a studio and they said, all right, do your thing. And I kind of like the fact that it's not... It's literally just you sit this guy down in a room and he's playing these songs for you.
It really feels like a concert, like a little coffee house concert, maybe 10 or 20 people in a small room just watching him play. I really like... because I feel like I'm in the audience just watching him do his thing.
And if he wasn't as charismatic as he is, it would just be...
run-of-the-mills blues,
It would be really, yeah, and
because a lot of these songs kind of remind me of Not For Kids Only. They all kind of start the same, just a tad. It's a little samey.
There's a kind of a like I got to a point where I could tell the songs apart when they were on. I was like, oh yeah, I remember this one. Like especially with like "Save Me," like which has that.
That has the sound of the guitar.
Yeah, like that's
weird
probably my favorite track, just because
Yeah,
it
me
was such
too.
a nice surprise.
It's my least favorite track. It's just so. I don't like the sound of the diddly bow.
I love it.
I love how like boingy it is,
Yeah.
like how it's super.
It's really unique.
And there are a couple like I think "Falling Off a Rock" is a legit like pretty great song. Honestly,
Oh, that's a great track.
I just like I don't know. I just think the songwriting's really basic. This is nothing new, like Jacob said, but I don't know. I just really feel like he kills it.
Well,
from
taking
the
a look at
songwriting.
the track listing here, I mean, Yellow Dog's a great intro. It's a good thesis statement for
I
what
wish
the
there
album
were a
is.
couple more cuts like that. These high intensity, and what we get in the last half of Dawn as well. My Dawn, I think.
My Donnie.
Yeah, My Donnie. Like the last half of that track, like I like that intense, like, and it's recorded through a tin can and with some string. Like I like it on those more intense tracks. I think because we get so many tracks that are a little more. Some of these kind of
It's
plot
kind of
along.
like Bayou bluesy kind of feel, like on the back porch kind of stuff, which I personally like. That's a sound that's really grown on me, especially with him in particular. So I'm just gonna take it track by track because there's a lot of tracks that I really like.
I think the first half of the album is pretty good.
It's pretty strong. Things Go Up has grown on me a little bit. It used to be not one of my favorites.
Yeah.
It's not
such
one of mine.
It's such a slow song to. I feel like Cut My Wings would have been a great second track to start on because Cut My Wings is such a. I just love the charm that he starts. He's like, we're gonna get some 3-strings trans music going, and then he plugs his guitar in and just doo doo doo.
I think it's I don't like personally like Cut My. It's one of the tracks. It's like when I try to recall these tracks, this is my biggest issue is I don't really remember them. When it's kind of just like it's pleasant when it's on.
It's kind of a mood album for
Right.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd agree.
And mostly background as well, because like there's even if you dig deep into what he's saying here, he's mostly telling stories and mostly like making these metaphors that are kind of cliche, like they're kind of old hat, which is fine. I don't think he's like
I do like the "Ain't Nothing Lower Than Hobo Low."
that's a good refrain. But like there's it's not like he's wasting time.
And it's genuine. It's not like
Yeah,
oh,
and
I'm a
'cause-
hobo. Look at this character I'm playing. No, he's been through it.
Sure, it does inherently make it interesting though, but I think he does tell some interesting stories on air and has some interesting like songwriting that kind of works out. And the playing generally is good. Just sometimes it's too one note.
And then we get "Falling Off a Rock," which you mentioned, which is a really great song. I like artists that kind of touch upon things in their life that brought them to where they are now, making this album. Brockhampton does it, which I really like, and we've talked about a few other artists who have done it too that I've really enjoyed. That's a particular thing that songwriters do that I always really enjoy. So seeing it on here is really good because I want to know, like, he's probably been through so much. I'd love to hear it through his music. So then we get "Doghouse Boogie," which is probably my second favorite track. I think "Cut My Wings" is my favorite track, but "Doghouse Boogie" is one that I listened to all the time growing up. Hear him playing it live when he uses his Mississippi drum machine, which is just a crate that he stomps on. It's just so awesome, and then the audience starts clapping along with it. It's just so much fun. So then we get "Save Me," which
I think is the best song on the
I
album.
didn't expect you guys to like that so much. Well, no, scratch that.
You should've.
I expected you guys to love that so
Yeah,
much.
come on, we're
It's the most
You're into
different
that weird
song.
shit.
I mean, it's when you have a whole album of a very, very similar sound, and it's a 50-minute album, over 50 minutes, when you include the story at the end.
True.
Even when you don't include the story at the end, it's still 40-something minutes. Right?
I don't think it slogs though. Personally,
It definitely slogs in the back half for me. For me, like
I think just the more I've listened to this a lot
to be fair,
growing up, and now I've just kind of gotten used to it. Even the songs that are a little slower, I've grown to really enjoy them.
like off the top of my head, the ones that every time they come on, I'm kind of really wanting it to be over. Is like Shirley Lou, my
that's such
Donnie
a-
originally.
Oh,
but
Shirley
that
Lou
one
is
grew on
such
me
a
as well.
sad song,
I don't know,
though.
but Last Pole Man, even though I kind of like lyrically what that song does, I'm just tired of the sound of the album because there's no variation at this point.
And that's why "Save Me" is so good, because it breaks it up.
Yeah, and it comes at a great point because I think the first half of the album's pretty good, and then we get "Save Me," and it's like, okay, here we go, change of pace. But then it's like the last like 20 minutes are really long.
And it's the whole way the album is structured. It's kind of just like a compilation of songs that he had, like, in his backlog that he could play. He decided, all right, I'm going to get in the studio, I'm going to record all these songs. It doesn't feel that much like a whittled down, cohesive, like, album.
I would have agreed with Brian when I started listening to this way back in the day, but it's really grown on me a lot that it just kind of breezes through. I would agree with Jacob, though. I feel like this really should have been a kind of pattern thing where, like, we get a fast, fun song with a slower song, kind of back and forth, just so it never really, like... Because I agree, the Dead song to Salem Blues, which I think are wonderful tracks, just back slow tracks just doesn't do this album any favors. So I feel like mixing those up in the top half so it kind of balances out with the fast and the slow tracks would have helped this album a lot.
I think
if you're not going to cut anything, I think that would have done it a huge favor.
I think some things probably should have been cut. Not that any individual song on here I think is bad. I do enjoy, on their own, each track I think is a good track. I just think if this album was 30 to 35 minutes long in total, it would be so much easier of a thing just to put on. Like right now, if you're putting this album on, you're saying, all right, I'm going to listen to 45 to 50 minutes of just straight blues. And the thing is,
if
this
you're
album
into that,
is good. It's good, but it's not so good that it is able to make that work for that length of time, I don't think. I mean, if you're going to listen to an album like this, I could come up with examples of artists that I think are just better in the songwriting department than Seasick Steve is. A lot of older blues artists, like original. His
later albums, I think, is more full band, like actual songwritings. What I love about this album is just how I just love the fact that it's just him playing and singing. There's really no song structure. It's kind of just a...
Well, there's definitely song structure.
I know, but like in the sense of like a complete song. You know what I mean?
In terms of instrumentation, he means, I think.
Right. Like just arrangement-wise, I guess.
Yeah, he's just strumming away. Like, it's just bare bones. I don't know. That doesn't appeal to me all that much. I find some of the parts where he speaks on here, I hate to use this word, but I can't help it. Feels like kind of like cringy. Like, I just not really into it. Like when he says something at the end of, I'm sorry, Steve, you seem like a swell guy. But like, he's, there's at the end of one track here, he's like, this one's like, it's right before falling off a rock. Oh, I don't know. Something about that line. It just makes me like I don't get, because in the beginning of Yellow Dog, I'm like kind of laughing.
Billie Eilish does it too.
Yeah, does she? No? I don't think she does. Anyway.
I actually like that, even though like it's really, really, it's almost stereotypical.
Right.
I like it because this is just, that he means it, and because of that, it kind of feels endearing. Like,
and I think it's interesting to think about when this came out. 2006. What a crappy time for music.
It was blues.
What was
the whole
popular
blues
then?
revival was huge in 2006. I mean, the White Stripes had already made it. Black Keys were coming up in the world. The whole garage rock revival was getting huge.
True,
Blues
but there was nothing
really...
like where it's just some guy playing. I think this sticks out among the crowd in that when you compare it to those artists, because none of those artists were doing stuff like this.
Yeah, I just don't think it was a bad time for this album to come out at all. I think it definitely could have capitalized on just what was going on in the
No, I agree with
scene.
you. I wasn't saying it was a bad time. I think it was a great time because there was nothing quite like this around that time. It's been done before, obviously, but in 2006, nobody was doing something like this.
I think people probably were, just maybe not every one of them got record labels. I mean, I think this is the kind of sound that you could probably hear, in a live setting.
Nowadays, oh my God.
I think in the 2000s as well. I mean, this is probably something that never went away. I mean, you go to a bar or a coffee shop, I'm sure this style has been played in a live setting similarly to the way that like traditional folk around here is, where you're not going to hear a lot of like, big name albums drop as far as that goes, but that doesn't mean the sound is gone. It's still very much alive in the live setting. I think this is, kind of.
But were they using three
blues.
strings though?
No, I mean, I'm saying Seasick Steve stands out, but I'm just saying that it's not like he's reinventing the wheel it's not even like he is pushing this genre back into the limelight. I just think that he's taking it and
it's for the fans,
putting
it's for
his
the
own
friends.
Yeah, it's putting his own kind of little personal spin on it, and he's making an enjoyable record.
And I think that's why I love it so much. It's just so enjoyable, and his character and demeanor, it's kind of like an Andrew WK effect, where the charm and charisma is so strong that if it wasn't there, this album would be really bad.
I like how that's become an official Unwarranted Music Opinions term.
We're basically scientists.
We're scientists.
I don't hate this thing. I think it's good and has merit. It's not something I personally go back to a lot, and I know
Trust me, I gotta be in a mood to want to come to this.
I understand that there's no ripple effect from this album that's gonna, for me, like, when I look at this thing, I see an album that maybe a lot of people enjoy, but in reality, do I enjoy it all that much? Not a lot.
You not a blues guy?
it's not even that. It's just that this is like, I know in my mind that there is way better blues out there, and I'm not even thinking about that while listening to this. This is like a post-examination type of thing where it's, how do I feel about this in a vacuum? It's mostly okay. Some of it's pretty good. And I know there's better stuff out there, and I know this is a drop in the pond, more or less. This is actually a drop in the ocean in the grand scheme of things. But it doesn't mean I'm not glad he's popular and like succeeding, because he, genuinely was homeless. He's a genuine dude, and I get that. But that doesn't necessarily translate to an album that I like listening to. Mm-hmm. So really, I'm not trying to be harsh when I say like strong 6.
That's a solid score. I'm kind of leaning in that direction myself. I would give it more of like a really light 7, because when it's on, I really like it. How often am I going to come back to it? Probably at the same level as like a 6. Like, like I'm not going to come back to it very often, but when I do, I like it. So the whole, it's the I like it when it's on effect to like at the greatest level that it could be, kind of.
So, been a nostalgia goggles on for this one, but it was just so much fun to come back to, and really, because when I would listen to this in middle school, it was definitely more of just an in the background kind of thing. So really listening to his playing and listening to the album all the way through with intent listening, it's just so enjoyable. The charisma and charm and so much soul he gets out of this just 3 strings. It's really impressive. It's fun, and I just really love this guy a lot. I really want to check out his other stuff too. I'm feeling a decent 8 on this. It's a combination of, like I mentioned, charisma, nostalgia, and just impressive playing, and genuine lyrics and experiences that I think just really elevate this to me to a higher score. So if you haven't listened to this album, I think it's definitely worth listening to at least once, and checking out his other catalog. Like he just came out with an album last year, and it's actually doing pretty well compared to this one. So go check it out.
The album that I chose is by a band that I have discovered recently as I continue my years-long delve into the 80s underground.
Having heard all the music from the 80s.
Having heard every single album. No.
Jacob says with a single tear down his throat, there's no more good music.
Down his throat.
Down
I meant to say
throat.
down his face. But, if it's going this way, it would go down his throat. My point still stands.
Chaz.
I love the recovery. Meant to say face.
It's the Waitresses, and their album Wasn't Tomorrow Wonderful. The Waitresses are a band from actually Akron, Ohio. They are basically like a new wave power pop band with heavy elements of ska and even post-punk sometimes. And the members of the band have been around in the music scene for a while since this album has come out. And actually one of them, the drummer, Billy Ficca, was in Television, which is one of the biggest, most well-known, in my opinion, greatest post-punk bands out there. He's on the drums. You've got Chris Butler writing most of the music here and playing guitar. And most importantly, in my opinion, you've got Patty Donahue with vocals on this album.
That sounds really familiar. I've heard that name before. What did she go on to do?
She actually died of lung cancer in the mid-90s at the age of 40, which is pretty sad,
Wow.
I think. Anyway, I've been listening to this album pretty much nonstop since I heard it a few weeks ago for the first time, and I'm just baffled that it hasn't gotten more attention. I am very excited to talk about it, and I'm nervous. I'm nervous at your all's reaction, but I'm hopeful.
A light 3, what can you do? But, there's things to enjoy about it.
Not only do I hate this album, but it's probably the worst one we wrote on the show. Oh, hold on. These are my Diet Sig notes.
Oh, poor Chaz. Poor Chaz.
It's not that bad.
Anyway.
It's just 2 dudes having fun. Oh, my God. I hate you both so much. Sometimes. Anyway, sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. He's growing on me more. I feel like with including Doghouse music, I wish I'd maybe gotten 1 or 2 more listens in. Because by the time I got to third listen on both, they'd grown on me enough to where, like, Doghouse grew on me to a point where I was liking it, but this was growing on me to a point where I was like, I'm really wanting to come back to it. Because, first listen I was like pretty good. Second listen I was like about the same as first, but the third listen was like, I kind of want to hear this more. I'm picking up on stuff. Like, and lyrically, it's becoming a little more enamoring. I'm admiring the songwriting more. I think they're really funny. which is a big selling point for me on the album, is like the sense of humor it has, and that goes with its bite as well.
I love albums that can touch on certain things but still have a sense of humor about it throughout the project.
Right, it's equal parts bite and equal parts like smile, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we start with No Guilt. The beginning of that song is like the way we play in that like never happens again on the album. There's maybe one other point that I can think of in my head, but like that piano crash as we come in and then they just start playing, and the goofy little like it reminds me of Pain. Like honestly,
The
like
ska elements, yeah, like first wave.
Let me
like,
tell you,
ska punk.
this album really surprised me with how much it's just jam-packing into it.
Yeah.
Like we mentioned ska, there's just a tad bit of post-punk, like a dash of
With
post-punk.
the noisiness of the guitars and how it gets a little
with the
abrasive
psychotic
sometimes.
sax playing of John Zorn.
Oh, it's kind of, yeah, the
With
saxophone is
like
crazy.
Huey Lewis in the News and Dexy's Midnight Runners like style of music with backup vocals that sound like they'd be in like production-wise in like a 70s or 80s musical.
They make, like-
There's so much going on musically with this
it's
album.
like Frankenstein, like on a couple of songs. It really is like a level
And
of
it
like
works.
how
It
many
works
genres
so
are they?
well.
And in the 80s as well, before we're really getting, we have a lot of genre blending at this point, but like this is like
For
I don't know,
82?
maybe the
Wow.
most I've heard at this point. Like there's so much here, like and
And
it's
it fits. It never feels like they're just throwing stuff in and seeing what works. Like it always feels so deliberate.
Yeah.
And it meshes so well that it's a unique identity that doesn't feel scatterbrained. It just feels fully formed and fleshed out, I think.
Yeah, it's it feels like they just know what they're doing, honestly. Like it's
Yeah.
so well composed. That's the biggest thing about this. Is like I don't know where they recorded this. It sounds like it was made in a studio, but they just know what they're doing. Like they're like experts basically on this album in terms of like instrumentation, like what they're bringing to the table. I think maybe it's an Achilles heel at some point because there's a little sameness between a couple of songs on here, but mostly they stick out. Like 80 or 90% of the time they stick
I'd
out.
agree with that, yeah.
I think that the tracks that initially blended together for me, like the more I listen, the more that different things stick out, whether it's lyrically or even musically. Like I'll hear a little piano riff happen that I didn't hear before, or the bass is doing something interesting and I catch on to it, or the drumming. I mean, Billy
drumming
Ficca
is
in television, like
fantastic
he's
on
always been one of the greatest things about that band in a kind of underrated way because the guitars have always been talked about, but his drumming on television is fantastic. His drumming here is fantastic. And you mentioned the saxophone player. I don't recall his name off the top of my head,
I got a huge John Zorn
but I
vibe.
looked into what he's been credited on. He plays
yeah.
on tons of Tom Waits albums from the 80s forward. And it makes so much sense because the sax on this thing is like a caged animal. It's playing all these little melodic and like punchy lines to kind of accent what's going on in the verses. But the way that it's played is very like aggressive and like subtly so, to the point where when you start paying attention to it more, like it just sounds angry. But again, like it is never overwhelming. And when you get like sax solos on this album,
They get wild.
They get wild. And guitar solos, like for example on Wise Up, when you go, so let's get right to it, and then the guitar comes in,
Yeah,
and
It's
it's
one
like
of the best moments on the
so
album.
it's like
It's awesome.
it's incredible the way the drums kick in and the bass line on that, and the guitar solo right there is just blood pumping and it just extremely exciting. Yeah, man, like just every moment on this album where they decide to throw in a new little melody or a new instrument or musical idea is so well crafted and catchy and memorable. And every song here, I feel like, has a kind of a unique identity to it from a lyrical perspective and a musical perspective. Like I remember so much, like little moments on every song.
You mentioned Pain, like, yeah, that's kind of the same thing Pain does, where like,
But that's tied more
not
to
as,
the
like, I think this band does it in a much huger spectrum, but that idea of like, let's throw in a violin on this song and see what happens, and it totally works. This band's doing the same kind of thing. You know, I really like that comparison.
I think like when I think of my favorite songs, No Guilt, Wise Up, It's My Car, Wasn't Tomorrow Wonderful. You know, I know what Boys Like. I feel like it's like an easy pick, but it is a good song. You know what I mean? It's just nice and catchy. It's probably the least like maybe lyrically, I wouldn't call it.
I
Like,
actually
weak.
like it lyrically, and here's why. Because on its face, I know what boys like, I know what guys want. Like, it's just that very deadpan.
Do you think it's
vocal delivery.
eerie?
I think it kind of is, because when you think about the context of the lyrics on this album, it basically boils down to what Rage Against the Machine said, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. But from a very like feminist perspective, and this is early 80s as well. And when you think about it, the whole track is look but don't touch. It's kind of saying, I don't owe you a thing. It doesn't matter what I look like, what I'm doing. I don't owe you anything. And that's the subtext that I'm getting from that song, even though it doesn't come out and say it explicitly.
I totally agree.
And I think that's a really, really strong point to make, and it fits in perfectly well with all of the other points being made on the album, which I'll get into more because I think the lyrics here are phenomenal.
Yeah, some of my favorite songs, I think Quit is my favorite. Just what a banging track. And It's My Car is awesome. Cat Strut is just freaking sweet. That's what we're calling it.
Strut.
We can't.
And I love the lyrics on that too, because you get like
got a catchy chorus.
The
as well.
verses are, sideways is horizontal, something diagonal. It's like just going over like really kind of basic
Learn how random
scientific
movements
things.
can be put on a straight line.
Yeah, and it's all science. But then you get the chorus, look at the butt, cat strut, and it's like totally the opposite of what the verses are. And the way I look at that is you have someone, probably a woman because of what's going on in this album and Patty Donahue's
the anatomy,
where it's like she's just talking about science and things, and then the verses or the choruses are kind of just boiling her down to sexual elements. And I think that song is kind of like pushing back against like stereotypes or
that women are just objects.
Yes, it's kind of saying like, you might have like a female scientist, and it's kind of saying don't boil her down to the base aspects of physical,
Yeah.
And
also,
does that all across the album.
I like that moment on that track too, where she's like, "This is very scientific," and just because it's kind of mocking as well. Like once I asked you about this.
The backup vocals throughout this album are the cream of the crop.
So good.
Yeah,
so
I
good.
think
they shine hard on "It's My Car." Oh my god,
It's
You're
funny.
running every red light.
"Go On" is the catchiest song.
It's also the best song while being the darkest.
Holy crap!
I disagree that it's the catchiest. But
I don't
also
know
like
that chorus.
I actually think it's really, really it's probably my most memorable
And I wasn't
track.
expecting it because like the verses are really like eerie kind
it's
of.
post-punky. It's the most post-punky track
It
in the
is,
album.
but then that chorus hits and I'm like,
It's
take me
dark,
away.
man. It makes me like
Yeah.
actually kind of uncomfortable.
And it's a fantastic closer.
it's kind of
It's
like
not the closer.
Jimmy Tomorrow's the closer.
I'm sorry. No.
And that's one of the best songs in the album.
Oh,
It is.
I'm an idiot. I'm a fake fan. Jimmy Tomorrow is a catchy ass song.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
catchiest song. The chorus on that is amazing.
The backing vocals when they go, I love the way, and let's get back to Go On, and then we'll go on to Jimmy Tomorrow. Like there's so many different tracks that I want to talk about here, just little individual aspects of them. Go On is kind of like, lyrically, it's the perspective of like a woman who is in an abusive relationship, and just like how she is rationalizing it in her head, like the line, "He only rarely hit me."
It's super scary, man. Like that makes me so uncomfortable.
So much of this album is Patty Donahue essentially pitching this new way of life and or outlook to women. It's very, very feminist. It's like saying, don't take that shit, essentially. Essentially, that's what a lot of this album
And that's
boils down
awesome.
to.
That's really
And that's
awesome.
what Go On kind of, I think, is about. That's also what the title track is about. What's a girl to do? Born to shop? No! Like, it's very...
Scream and screw? No!
Yeah, and I love use the F word like a shotgun.
Yeah.
Where it's like saying, just don't conform to... And of course, this is 1982. I think the F word is a little more socially common nowadays, but...
Back then.
Back then, I think that point being made is like... and especially on freaking Jimmy Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Which is the angriest, I think, lyrically.
I thought Go On was the closer. I'm sorry. But Jimmy Tomorrow, the catchiest song. No question. Because that chorus, I wasn't expecting it. And just, man, oh man, when it hit, like...
Let me read some of my favorite lyrics from Jimmy Tomorrow, which it starts with this very, very post-punky instrumental. And you get her saying, well, no, this isn't pretty. And yes, my hair was longer then. It's what happens when your choices are narrowed to fashion or violence. And I think the first half of the song anyway, is kind of like a conversation or her rebuttal against someone who might be saying, hey, calm down, what's the big deal? Or, you're being a feminazi or
Chill.
whatever.
Yeah.
She's saying, like, why'd you cut your hair? What's going on? She's saying, like, yeah, either I cut my hair or I have to punch you in the face because you're pissing me off right now. And then at the very end, where it's easily the angriest moment on the album, I guess I set impossible goals and I don't know when to quit. Is that it? And then she starts repeating that and gets more frantic and angry. She's saying, like, essentially, yeah, she's just sort of trying to fight back against people saying that she should just, just calm down, like, it's no big deal kind of situation. And the thing is, like, it never feels preachy or overtly political all that often because there's so much
because I think
personality
and
and
the
charm
music
and
helps
humor
with that. The humor, the music helps with that a lot. Because surface level, there's a lot of catchy, fun tunes on here, but when you dig down what the lyrics are about, theme wise, like.
Yeah, and I've mentioned some of the more like serious politically charged moments on this album, but look at the first track on the album, No Guilt, which is like a post-breakup song where she's saying, I didn't need you, I could do laundry on my own, and like she's just listing off all of these like really basic things.
I think it's more like satire than it is just like baseline. It's not like here, I can do laundry punchline. It's like there's a subtext where it's like, I'm good on my own, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think,
exactly.
and it's a powerful subtext. It's not just like, haha, making punchlines about this breakup to cope with it. It's like, this is probably not even about a real breakup.
Yeah,
like,
100%.
This is most likely just like, she's thinking to herself, like, this is how I feel. Other women might feel this way. And that's the thing. It's a very personal, like, it's very much, and that's why it feels so good when she talks about this stuff, is because it's not like some rhetoric she's spreading. Like, this is how she feels. And she just understands that, like, now would be a time.
But it doesn't
to do
have like
this.
a veteran effect where it's hard to relate to. I feel like a lot of women could relate to this.
No, I relate to this on a certain level because it's like, why would, especially someone who's been marginalized, why the hell would you conform? Like, fuck that, dog. Like, be you. There's an open mic Eagle lyric off of this rap LP that's going to get totally swept under the rug this year by Blockhead called Free Sweatpants. My favorite line on that whole album is when Mike Eagle says, my son's going to feel as comfortable being weird as a white kid. And it's like, that for me is like a lyric that I thought about when I was listening to this album, because it's like, you're stereotyped if you are, black or a woman or many other things that are, don't even get as much attention, because like society has this idea of how you should behave. And that's shown on this album for sure for women, because the only reason it's so poignant is because she's defying it at a time when it was, still hard to defy it. Like, you're still, we're not at a level of like 2010s where like, women are more and more like, we're starting to, especially with social media and stuff, we're having our eyes pried open to like, some horrible realities and like really seeing what's going on. But, back in the 80s, we don't have that benefit of the doubt. So an album like this could be super important to some young girl who hears it. And maybe even like, other young, men are the only people who aren't women. So, like maybe even, young men who hear this and have their perspective flipped.
Anyone who hears this, honestly, because lyrically it's incredible, but it's not even... Lyrics could be nonsense and this album would still be musically phenomenal, I think.
I just think the lyrics really take it to the next level, because musically it's like, wow, what the hell are they on? But like then lyrically you're like, okay, I know what they're...
so ambitious in both respects.
In 82...
Like the saxophone that on the verses of Wise Up, like the bump bump bump, like it's so like punchy and loud, and like it's used for such an interesting way where it's not this like a melodic line. It's just like punching into the verses, like just loud and angry.
I'm telling you, the ska was surprising enough, but when I heard the actual psychotic like alto sax screech that's like all over John Zorn, Naked City, I was like, what am I listening to right now? What is this?
And on Heat Night, when you get the bum 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 bum, like that guitar part, when the whole song falls apart and you just get these like dissonant guitar, like Trout Mask-esque, like it just like it does that for a second.
Can you do that again?
It does that for a moment, right? And then the main riff of the song comes back over that, and it just like clashes completely, but it sounds so like, it just sounds wild, and then the song starts coming back, and then the transition, man, from Heat Night into Redland is seamless, and then Redland is like this hilarious ska song about like a takeover from foreign powers, like communist probably, Redland, where they're saying, we'll learn about our brave new heroes, I won't be happy, but I don't remember what the word is there, but lyrically it's hilarious as well.
I think that's actually one of my tracks that's weakest for me is Redland, probably Heat Night as well, and I'm not a huge fan of Quit. Those are songs that have maybe
Quit is so
those
good.
are songs that maybe, with Quit being the one I'm most acclimated to, the one I like the most of those three, they're just not songs that have really grown on me with each listen. I'm kind of just the highlights are so high, which gives this album a lot of potential. And like I said, I didn't really get all the listens I really should have this week, because by the time I got back to this one for a third time, I really wish I'd heard it more before we got in here to talk about it, because I'm sure my opinion on it will change. But as it stands right now, I will probably fall in love with it. I'm not quite in love with it. So where I'm at right now, just throw a strong 7 or a light 8 on this thing, because that could be its peak for me. I don't know, because I haven't listened yet. But I really only think it's going to get better.
I'll accept this.
It's really good. I should have heard this thing maybe 5 or 6 times before I came in.
I'm still hearing new things about this thing.
I honestly I almost don't care instrumentally, even though it's really ambitious, it's really good. I'm really drawn to her performance. For me, it's vocals. We've known that since the beginning, right?
And her vocals, I think we should mention, they set that apart too. It's very
not a weak
punky.
moment.
It's kind of almost predating indie rock
It
vocals.
reminds me of the Doghouse cassette. Just a tad.
Yeah, I mean,
Sure.
like I said, it's got that kind of ambivalent, kind of deadpan, slightly coy vocal delivery where it's very indie rock, but it's on an early 80s new wave record. And I think that definitely sets her apart. And I listened to this album a couple days ago, and I noticed, which I probably had, I'd noticed before, but I really honed in on the title track, how on the last verse, the piano, I think the bass goes away on the last verse and the piano starts doing a lot less full chords and just more just little
single note kind of thing.
Yeah, and it just so many moments on this album where compositionally what they are deciding to do is super interesting, and I feel like it never falls. It always succeeds when it's trying something new, and it's so ambitious in that regard, from a songwriting perspective, how on In My Car, where there's that car crash moment where all of the instruments kind of just start going crazy for a moment and then it pops back up, how it's taking the concept of a song and applying it to the song itself, the songwriting, not just lyrically, but musically. It's taking the idea and the concept and it's making the entire thing work from that regard. It's this was an 8 when I first heard it, because I just really, really enjoyed it. But the more I'm listening to this, the more I am just amazed by what they're doing on this album, and amazed that it hasn't caught on, really. This is, from my perspective, this goes toe-to-toe with the best albums by Blondie, The Pretenders, Devo, Elvis Costello even. This is genuinely one of the greatest new wave albums I think I've ever heard, because the more I listen to it, I just am
Do it. You know you
blown
want
away.
to. Do
it's
it.
not a 10.
Aw.
I would say it's like a light to decent 9 from my perspective right now. But yeah, it just does so much and it succeeds in every single aspect, I think.
I'm 100% with Brian. This was just a fun album. But I think just more listens, this could easily become an absolute favorite. No question. Especially with what you were talking about lyrically, and just, I'm a huge ska guy, so seeing that and all these other elements of other bands and sounds just coming together so well. It's criminal that these guys are just known for a stupid Christmas song. That's criminal. That's absolutely disgusting.
Calm down, Chaz.
We failed as a society where this band who's doing this much lyrically and musically are known for a stupid Christmas song.
It's kind of that Lost Gym kind of situation, kind of like
Cyberry.
It's Siberian Pain.
Or Blind Melon even, where everybody knows Blind Melon for No Rain. No Rain is the least Blind Melon song in their entire catalog. I think Christmas Rapping is probably the least The Waitresses-esque song that they ever wrote, and
What's
it's totally
another group
different.
So-
there's probably plenty out there where it's this one song. I'm trying to think.
Chumbawamba.
Yeah.
Look at Tub Thumping compared to, their post-punkier early days. It's another example.
I introduced you to that. Don't even start with me. You can't just say that like you knew that.
I looked
were
into your
part of that
eyes.
fan base that's like, they're only known for tub thumping and that's it. Stop. Fake fan. Fakest fan, Jacob Lindbergh.
I acknowledge. I looked right into your eyes when I said it. All right.
Well, they don't know that. Anyway, definitely strong 7 to light 8, and this could grow.
I think it only has. It's only going to go up.
It can only go up from
Like, I
here.
would keep an eye out this for maybe like the end. Like, this could possibly honorable mention or round out the best list, honestly, at this point.
So I do want to mention, I don't think it's why it's like a light, maybe 9. I think that the production and the mixing could have been better.
I don't know. I kind of like it a lot about that. Like I mentioned, it reminds me of like a musical, like the backing vocals.
This is like my favorite kind of sensory overload, in my opinion. I wouldn't, like, our issues are probably two separate things.
I think it could be a little, I think if the production were just a little cleaner and you could hear everything that was going on a little better, that would make the album better. But I mean, they were from Akron, Ohio, all right? They didn't have, it's on an indie label. They probably didn't have the resources to do a big budget kind of recording. And for what they were able to do, I mean, they really capitalized on every single resource that they had.
They knocked it out of the park, no question.
My pick is the 2019 pop release from exploded into stardom pop artist Billie Eilish, who had a release not too long ago. I think it was maybe the last year. You know, it was kind of like an EP mixtape type of feeling. I didn't catch it myself. I got caught up in the hype of her debut album that came out this year called When We Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go? I kind of got caught up in the hype when I heard the singles off of this thing, and I was kind of floored. Like, I thought they were really, really intriguing. Like, I wasn't like, these are some of the best pop songs of all time, but I was pretty hooked, I gotta say. Like, I would be in denial if I said I didn't listen to Bury a Friend and Wish You Were Gay like several times into the lead up of this album. And when it came out, I was like, okay, I'm not expecting a great pop out. I think that because Billie Eilish is 17 years old, and this is her first like big release. Like, you know, she's
had a few EPs.
This is the debut, though. This is the one that like contextually will matter the most. You know, this isn't like you know, it's still formative just because she is so young. But usually when an artist comes out with an album like this, right, it's their first big album. It's a pop album at that. So there's a huge market to compete with, and also it's hard to, maybe not in today's landscape, but like I think it's difficult to stand out. You could really easily get swept up in this trap of like, you know, okay, you know, get that trap influence, you know, get the, you know, super catchy choruses, you know, the lyrics can be basically whatever if you make the instrumental and the hook catchy. And I was expecting something maybe kind of like that based on the singles, minus some of the trap elements, because I was glad she was staying away from that in the singles leading up to this thing. So going in, I'm like, okay, this is probably going to be a really good debut. You know, I'll be excited to hear what comes next. And that's true, but like on its own, like, I don't know, man. This album really took me by surprise and swept me off my feet. Like, I'm not gonna lie, say it again, I was pretty floored when I listened to this thing all the way through the first time, because I think it flows amazingly. I think most, if not all, the tracks here range from like really good to great. There's very few in the way of weak moments, even though I'm picking out stuff. We'll talk about this lyrically. I'm sure there are moments that you all are not into, and I would say that I'm not into either, because they come off maybe a little edgy in a bad way and a little, you know, half-baked. But I'll talk about the maybe appeal of that in a moment, and maybe make an observation that can kind of explain that. But in general, the reason I love this album so much, and it's becoming one of my favorites from this year, is because it's so catchy. It's, I wouldn't say immaculately produced, but extremely well produced. I love the effects they use on this album. Even though the beats are pretty minimal, they're not doing anything crazy. They add a few nice like touches through some of the songs that are kind of, you know, like some police sirens at one point, and some effects that enhance what the song is about. But other than that, it's pretty simple, honestly. Even like a track like Bury a Friend that has like some elements of like, I don't want to like call it like industrial, but it's
industrial.
Like,
it's experimental.
I wouldn't call it experimental. It's just at this stage of the game, that track's not really experimental at all in the grand scheme of anything that's ever happened in music at this point. But like, I do
The
like
fact that it's there is pretty surprising.
I think it's cool because a lot of people are going to hear this album. There's a lot of hype. A lot of people love this album. Like when I talk to people about music, generally speaking, people aren't listening to music like the three of us, where they're exploring a lot of deeper stuff and have, our favorite artists perhaps aren't the favorite artists of anyone other than other music nerds. So when I can bring this album up in conversation with normies, you can bring this album like up in conversation with just anyone, and they might really like it. And the thing is, I'm glad that those sounds are being incorporated onto an album that's going to have such reach. And I love that it's super catchy. I'm kind of rambling at this point, but I knew you guys probably wouldn't love this. And the reason I picked it was because I knew I did. And the whole point of the show is to talk about records that we love with one another. But I don't think I'll be dissuaded. I just think it's so good. It's not like the best album ever. It's not the best pop album ever. It's probably not even the best pop album this year. But it's just really good, man. And I was like, this is pretty much, I feel like, the best a debut can go, especially given the context of like how young she is and how like inexperienced she is really in the music industry. Like there's a level of wisdom that comes with those who actually get experience with their age. And I just feel like we're only going up from here if this is the first thing we're gonna get.
This album has potential. This album shows a lot of promise. This album surprised me, honestly. I don't think it succeeds at everything that it tries to do. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if this album is just put on in the background. Like, I don't have really a dislike for any of the songs here, I would say. And I think that what you mentioned as the highlights of this record are the highlights for me as well. The production here is really great. I love how there's a lot of space sonically. Like, they're not overloading these tracks with a whole lot of instrumentation, and it kind of gives everything room to breathe a little bit. It gives, especially when Billie's vocals are very quiet, I think it actually really helps that.
Do you know who produced it?
It's her brother, right?
Yeah, and it's weird because like I was fishing around for production credits on this thing because I wanted to see for myself because I'd seen it reported as, it's just her and her brother. And it is. I cannot find a single point where anyone else is credited.
That's really cool.
On anything. I just, there's no, it's just them. And most of the beats here are so basic and like, not to insult them, but basic and like electronic based that I buy it. I mean, yeah, one person could make every beat on this album.
And I think it actually, like, it doesn't feel underdeveloped or anything like that. Even if it's minimal sometimes, like, it feels deliberate. It actually gives it a nice, different flavor than a lot of... I mean, I think that right now pop music is trending towards the minimal, especially when you get certain, like, trap rap artists where it's just, like, really basic, really minimal, not necessarily in a bad way.
Right.
I think that this is, like, the dark kind of... I don't want to say ambient, but just like atmospheric pop sort of version of that. A lot of the times here. Not every track, but for a good portion of the album.
Especially towards the back half.
Yeah. Where you get a lot of like more piano ballads.
Yeah.
What do you think, Chaz?
This album's really fucking good. It's really fucking good.
Like, I wish I could...
Stop talking. I need to rave about this album.
What's your favorite song?
Zanny.
Chaz, you've done some terrible things to me on this show. But this is your moment. Go, my boy.
All right. So, I'll be real. I was expecting some middle school edgy bullshit. Someone who thinks they're all that in a bag of chips and aren't shit, I was expecting all that. Then Zanny hit, and I was like, wow, this is really fucking good. I'm just going to take it track by track, because I got to just praise this album.
Now, Jacob, your favorite track off the top of my head is Wish You Were Gay.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's...
it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Good.
And it's kind of it's sweet.
What an interesting sentiment.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I kind of hate how this album opens. It's the Invisalign kind of thing.
No, I love that.
I just think tonally it's totally like...
I love that because it's little moments like that throughout the album, and it shows that she's having so much fun while making this.
Does it feel...
It shows so much genuineness and charisma. It reminds me of Seasick Steve and Andrew WK. It's just moments... I love artists that do that. Flaming Lips did it on At War with the Mystics. They would just pop in little, like, studio moments.
Or like Surfer Rosa by the Pixies has
Yeah.
a lot of that on it.
I love artists that do that, and she does it all throughout this, where it just shows that she's not taking herself so seriously, which is what I was expecting in this release. But Bad Guy is such a banger of an opening.
Dude,
God!
that track is like,
I'm the bad guy.
like that was like when that track came on, I was pretty impressed, like right off the bat, because I was like,
Yeah.
I was like, hold on, it's like, understand. You know, this isn't like, the thing is, it doesn't need to be like this thing's gonna redefine, like, you don't, that album doesn't
No.
have to do that to be good. We've established that on the show before. So this song is like electro pop, pretty basic electro pop, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
It's really good.
Okay. It's electropop with a dash of industrial and just a hint of
Not on
trap.
this track, not in this.
there's the trap
No.
bridge.
The beach switch and Bad Guy. That's industrial.
No, it's just heavy hardcore bass. No. No.
Debatable. Sounds like what you've shown me before on the show. That's industrial.
Just because heavy bass is not industrial. Industrial is going to be like,
I know what I heard, Brian. I'm sorry.
I wish you
You're
did.
wrong.
I really wish you did. But yeah, I like the beat switch as well. I think the track's really catchy. I can remember like the verses stick out as well. It's, here's where we see this for the first time on the album, I think. Right in the first track is like, okay, is Billie Eilish a lyrical master? No.
But
She stumbles on
All right,
this album.
You
a
guys are
couple
going to hate me
times.
for this, but it reminds me of Diet Sig, where lyrically you may hate it, you may love it, but it feels genuine to me personally.
I think it's better than Diet Sig.
Well, obviously.
I think in terms of like super genuineness, like it's leagues ahead. Like this feels way
And there's
more
some great
earnest.
lyrical moments on this, but it just, whether you think it's edgelord or not, it's real.
Sometimes it does come
It's
off
coming
edgelord, but
from each track. It feels like it's coming from such a real place.
that's the point I want to make is because this thing does stumble lyrically sometimes, like on All Good Girls Go to Hell, like that
That
track has
Lucifer
some,
line, it's cringy, but I don't even care.
there's some moments on that track that are super kind of like, it's like, okay, this is pretty base level, but I just want to account for the fact that the lead singer for Seether was pushing 30 and she is 17. And because maybe these lyrics are kind of similar in their nature of, it's like a very, very basic like analysis of religion.
Honestly, it's what XXXTentacion wishes he was doing.
But here's the thing.
His work.
She is young, and this is her debut, and it's a very, like I've said many, many times so far, it's very formative. This is very putting yourself out there at such a young age, putting your thoughts out there like this, because most people are going to put, oh, she's just being edgy. Oh, she doesn't even understand what's going on. Because she's going to be exposed to that kind of criticism at such a young age, I fear a little bit for, how much can she take? She seems very level-headed, but like, how much can she take? But also, when I hear a line like that, I'm not even thinking about that anymore. I'm just like, this is like somewhat bold, because every kid probably, like every person her age, because she's not much younger than us, but she's still at a different point in her life.
It makes me excited for when she matures and what she'll do lyrically in future projects.
Right, because the thing is, like, even though those lyrics are awkward and stumbly and kind of stick out like a sore thumb sometimes when I'm listening,
they don't stick out to me, but just if you read into them, they're just a little like, okay,
they're very surface level. But the thing is, she's only going to get better, and because she's so young, there's a point of relatability to a line like that, because we've talked about this one other time on the show, if you've ever sat down and tried to write a song from a lyrical perspective, because I don't know how to play many instruments.
It's really difficult.
You are literally like everyone else. Okay, like you sit down, you write this, you're like, well, who's thought this before? How can I spin this? And then you can't, because it's super difficult. So when I see like a Billie Eilish do this, or on a completely different page, like even like a Jaden Smith, who is kind of dumb, like when he's penning stuff that's like kind of stupid, but he's trying to be creative, I don't know. I see a bit of boldness in that, because I'm like, hey, that's a hard thing to do, to put yourself out there like that. Maybe not in Jaden's case, he's rich, but in the first place, you know what I mean? Like, even if you have this kind of, you're boosted up, you have a big head, it is really difficult when you put that out there, and you're going to, they're going to wipe the floor with you. People are, because they don't care. And they're like, oh, this art is surface level, I've heard blah, blah, blah. But, like, I don't know. For me, when I see a lyrics, like, on When All Good Girls Go to Hell, and even on Bury a Friend, that line where I'm thinking about the things that are deadly, and, like, there's some moments on there that are, will come off as cringy to some people. But for me, it's like, hey, what would I have been saying at 17?
And here's the thing. The delivery makes it. God, when she does that, like, quiet vocal thing, I just eat that shit up.
I think she's a really capable and even really at points like gorgeous singer. Like, I think she has great
Absolutely.
vocals, and the way they
the
produce
vocals
them
are pretty great on this album.
So then we get Zanny, my absolute favorite song.
probably my favorite too.
I like the very slight kind of almost jazzy drumming.
And that heart, like that
verses.
vocal shift she does in the
chorus, it makes it stands out. It's really catchy, and like the
and the
sentiment
melody,
is great.
like that's a classic kind of melody chord progression that I was not expecting on this
I'm
release.
pretty sure the crowd that's listening to this are going to be the same that's like into the SoundCloud rap scene and stuff like that, because that's where Billie's kind of like loosely associated with like those people in terms of like Trippie Redd and stuff like that, and XXXTentacion at one point. But I think that's really important because people are going to seek her out for her personality and probably like her music if they're into stuff like that. And they're going to hear this message, and it's really important because, you know, you could get swept up in this horrible party lifestyle that you're not ready for. It's going to completely derail you.
More
And here
artists need
she
to
is
be
like,
talking,
hey, you know, you can do this without wrecking your life. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I love the line about how they're too drunk to feel pain. It's like, yeah, like they're not even looking at what they're doing. It's just, you know, getting swept up in it. After Zany, it's
So You Should See Me in a Crown, which I really like that. You Should See Me in a...
It's really...
I dislike that song.
Right.
I really like
I
it.
feel
It's
too-
grown on me a lot.
I feel two ways, right? Because like when it's on, I'm like, in terms of sound, I'm like, hell yeah, I really like this. But like when you look at it lyrically, oh man, this one's really
and
reaching.
I don't think that the instrumentation, like, it just doesn't work for me. It feels like the very first thing a producer would do
Right.
when you want to make something quote unquote loud and edgy. You know, it just feels like the first, like, let's make kind of a almost dubstep-y kind of breakdown. in it.
True, but remember, it's too...
I know.
Teenagers
And
make it.
Doesn't
Here's the
excuse
thing.
it though if you don't like it.
Well,
I
it would
don't-
make... There's like... If two like young people are making this compared to like a studio head, there's different levels of like what makes it bad. You know, if a studio head was like, yeah, let's get this corporate edginess and loudness into it, but compared to like, hey, this is what we like, let's try to do that. You know, I
admire the intent. I don't, you know, and that's part of why I don't dislike this album more than I do, because I don't think this album is all that great. And I'll talk about why. I'll let you all rave about it a little bit first. You know, I never feel like this album comes off like ingenuine or anything, but I do think that the intent versus the outcome, you know, what she's trying to do versus what actually happens, there is a gap there. And I think that not every choice and not every lyrical moment and not every musical moment works out. I do admire her for going down some directions, though. I do like what she is trying to put out there, and I think that it shows a lot of promise for what she might do in the future. But You Should See Me in a Crown, you know, the lyrics aren't great. I don't think that her vocals are the best on that particular song. I think she's much better on other songs here.
I agree with that.
I don't really think the melody's that great. I think it's pretty basic. I think the instrumentation just kind of irks me on that track.
It is my least favorite track because every time it comes on, I'm into the catchiness. I am into the production to a point. This song has the most surface level appeal. Like, I hate to be hard on this album just because I really do love it quite a bit, but I would be in denial if I said when this song comes on, I'm really just into the refrain, the chorus, and the kind of the sound that's based around that. And, you know, everything else in the song, the way they build up, it's super duper basic. Don't dislike the song, but certainly my least favorite and certainly the least ambitious and the least, you know, thought out, I think.
so then we get All Good Girls Go to Hell.
This is easily
kind of talked about.
This has some of the edgy lyrics on it that I don't like, but I think it's still really catchy and the production's fine.
Then we get Wish You Were Gay, which is just a fantastic
That's
track.
a good song. It's a very good song. It has that, like, I actually like the incorporation of like acoustic guitar into the more electro pop kind of
And that piano
production.
too, yeah.
And the
I
crowd.
think it's easily the best lyrics on the album. Like the whole concept of, man, I wish you had a different reason than I just don't like you that much to
Yeah.
reject me. I wish that it wouldn't even have to think about it. I just, you know, if you were just gay, then it wouldn't matter because
Yeah.
because it would be like, all right, okay, yeah, he's gay, it's fine.
I like the line, you know, don't say I'm not your type, just say I'm not your preferred sexual orientation.
Yeah, it's like
that
saying,
one's
please
really fun.
Please give me a reason. But I also think that it's one of the catchiest moments, if not the catchiest song on the album.
and
I
her
think,
singing stands out a lot too,
yeah,
I think.
I think that one of my main complaints with this album isn't even lyrically that much. I just think that a lot of the songs here aren't that catchy. Like, I just feel like I've heard the melodies before. I feel like the instrumentation here, it's kind of a 50-50 shot. Does it grab me? Sometimes it does, like with this song. On other tracks, even like Zanny, I think the melody's kind of one note. I feel like I'm not remembering these songs. I feel like when I've heard the song, in one ear and out the other, and I have a hard time remembering it. I just don't think it's that catchy, with the exception of some tracks. Now
the Waitresses, the same. I was having the same issue on my fourth listen. Just in one ear, out the.
To be fair, I don't really think that there are only maybe 2 songs here that I just straight up dislike, and You Should See Me in a Crown's one of them. All the Good Girls Go to Hell is just kind of middle of the road. I don't like
Bury a Friend.
8, and I don't like Bury a Friend either.
Oh, you don't like 8?
8 is so good. Okay, listen. Listen, that ukulele, it's cheap, it's cliche,
feel like it's
but
checking a box. I just don't like it.
But it's just so genuine.
But there are some good
carefree.
things. Like, I like the production on this. I think the keyboard that kind of comes in near the end is nice. I like her vocals here. I don't like the vocal effects that much.
Damn, see, I really like the vocal effect. Even on the first
I just don't remember. I can barely remember.
I remember
I can only remember the
hardcore.
melody because I've heard it enough times for this podcast. Like,
wow.
I just can barely remember that song after I hear it.
Completely opposite opinion.
I do remember the melody on Bury a Friend.
Well, hold on. I don't want to skip My Strange Addiction, which is like, for me, is like
When the Party's Over. We didn't talk about that.
When the Party's Over is cool. I really like I just like the chorus
song.
and the way like underneath. I think it really elevates that song.
That's one of her best
It's the best
deliveries.
ballad on the album, I
It's
think.
Wow, you really think so?
delivery, the vocal delivery on that is one of the strongest moments.
I think it's her. Yeah, I think it is probably her single best vocal take on the whole album.
I think My Strange Addiction is like one of it's a sleeper hit, man. I really hope
what's
this
funny
one.
is when I heard the Office samples, great sampling by the way, excellent choice. But I thought this whole song was just I'm addicted to The Office. I thought that's what the song was.
The thing
about.
is, like, can you explain to me what the point is? Because I think they're funny, but I am left like kind of confused as to why they were there.
Me don't get it either. I don't watch The Office. I have no context for these
it's one
samples.
of the most millennial things I think I've ever heard.
I think it's funny, but I'm just
it works
like
so well. I don't know why.
I don't know if
I
there's
don't
a-
understand what the point is.
I don't think there's a lot of purpose to it. If I'm from my perspective, I don't see a lot of purpose either.
It was
but
probably just literally like, I really love The Office. Let's just put that in.
I love the chorus on this song, man. Every time this song comes on,
You.
I don't remember it.
My strange
I like her
addiction.
vocals on it. I just can.
That like kind of ply like
It just
doo,
feels so.
doo,
It just kind of feels like a generic melody. I feel like I haven't heard. I just wish that she would, like the melodies on this album. I feel like they could be way better. I feel like they could be way more unique. They could be way more catchy, and it just feels a little generic songwriting wise. Like on that song, again, like I don't dislike the song really. Like overall, this album for me is really middle of the road. Like I don't have many strong feelings either way with this album.
Then we get. Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead. Bury a Friend.
I'll just say. Well, we kind of talked about that.
Well, we
that's
haven't
a great track.
I think it's the single that got me interested. Man,
And I could see that. That'd be like a good like. Ooh, yeah. I'm
Did
kinda
you
into
did you watch any of the music video? Because I know you're a music
did.
video guy. I think they're really good.
it. Okay.
I think they're really.
You should see me in
really
a
good.
crown. Don't watch the music for that.
Don't watch that music video. They have
But
a-
it's
there's-
so funny, you know. And props to her because I couldn't do that. I couldn't even attempt to do that.
I think like Bury a
But
Friend's a super good music
When
video.
the Party's Over music video is really good.
It's good.
The-
It's simple.
Bury a Friend music video is really nice too.
Bad
the
Guy.
Bad Guy.
Yeah.
Those dad bods like
Yeah. Anyway,
freaking sweet.
this is an audio-based show.
I have no idea what you all are talking
We'll show you the video for Bad Guy after this.
It's fun. It's really fun. It reminds me of like a '90s music video.
So Bury a Friend's like the last like electro pop kind of
Yeah.
single potential we get out of this, and then we get into and actually Ilo Milo is a kind of I like the channel panning, even though it's a little gimmicky. It did grow on me.
I just love the keyboard in that leads into the.
It's super like jittery, I guess.
I
I
like
would
that
call
track.
It.
It's one of the quietest moments, and I think that the quietest
I
moments are
love
the
that
best
this
on this
album has quiet moments.
Now for me, this thing does like this album goes from like a pretty impressive pop like gymnastics act, and then like right at the end, it's like we get like a
It goes off the deep end a little
like
bit.
you don't like the
It gets
No.
no off the deep end. I don't really say that negatively. It gets very dark.
right. We
And
like
it turns into a lot of piano ballads, like right at
the
the end.
last three.
And
Listen,
I actually think that shows that she's thinking about the
What a
way this album
strong-
flows,
yeah.
the way it is as a full package.
think there's a
the
respect to
concept
that.
behind it.
Goodbye. I mean, like she says the verses from all the previous songs she's done to this point, and
It's
it all ties together. It started the way it began.
it's a nice closer. Is it
ended the way it
Is
began,
it
sorry.
revolutionary? Is it like no?
No,
But it is
it's-
good. I like it. I
it's
like that
good.
there's some thought there. I think that Listen Before I Go is like a great track, man. Like this is like.
It's so
like
somber.
I think this album benefits from being played a little bit louder because there are some small production elements. Like I didn't really hear those sirens on my first few listens, and then the final one where I was singing with headphones had it up pretty loud. I caught it, and I don't know. For me, it just adds a lot to the track, even though storytelling wise, it's pretty basic.
I feel like it's And when I talk about the lyrics on the last half of this album and say that I admire them more than I like them, I don't want to discount anything that Billie, the artist, the person, personally is going through. But as like just a piece of art and songs, I feel like the lyrics on this last half of the album are really on the nose. And it kind of reminds me of when you're watching like a B movie drama and some really, really emotional music swells in to say, hey, if you're not feeling this way right now, this is how you should be feeling. Are you feeling this way yet? It feels just really, I guess, on the nose again. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of subtlety. It just feels like the very first possible
the delivery and instrumentation is so genuine that I could care less if it's on the nose.
And I can barely remember the songs too. I don't think the songwriting's that great on them.
Really?
I think it's a nice atmosphere. I don't dislike the songs. I just am left.
Can you recall the part in I Love You where it swells to that line? Like the I love, and like it's like this huge.
Yeah,
I like, I think that's the most memorable part from the back half. I would kind of agree that the memorability drops off here, but
and the I Love You was about 5 minutes long. I just think it goes on too long as well.
I would actually agree. It's a little long, even though it's really beautiful. I think it is really like I don't think it's
just a tad, but God, it's a nitpick for me, if anything.
Yeah, like I don't even know what else to say. I was floored by this thing. It's not one of those albums that the people I typically talk to music about are going to be, I think except for Chaz, who surprised me, are going to be as excited about. So I don't know. I felt kind of on an island with this one for a little while because I was just over and over again listening to it. Like, was really, really impressed. Loved it to pieces. And again, I just think that, the blemishes of this album, I'm not trying to write them off because they're blemishes all the same and they affect, how I think about this album. But I don't know. I can only really see them as bold in some respects because when I think about, the creative process at such a young age, I think it's not only hard to come up with anything at all to say, but also to put it out there in the first place. There has to be a level of ignoring the fact that you may be saying something that's already been said so that you maybe can put out something that people will find quality. And I don't know, that just describes like 3 or 4 songs on here for me. And all the other ones are just good on their face. Yeah, she's a really capable singer. Her brother's a super great producer in terms of just making like really catchy, memorable pop music and also, laying instrumentals that work under these ballads. Yeah, the fact that they're brother and sister probably helps. I don't know, it's really great, man. It's not the best album I've heard this year, but I don't know. It inches closer and closer every time I listen to it.
Score it.
Feeling like a decent to strong 8, honestly. Like, I mean, it only gets better with each listen. This is like, maybe if I'd listened to Waitresses more, that could have came in here and maybe gotten this, like, tied that or maybe even beaten the score, I think. But wow, it's really good, man. I don't know. I'm blown away. Really.
If someone put this on in the background, I wouldn't tell them to turn it off. And I like some of the songs here. I admire what Billie's doing. I like her vocals. I like the style that she's kind of establishing for herself on this album. I just think that songwriting-wise, I'm not grabbed very often. I think that the production kind of helps me through it, where even if it's a song that I'm not in love with, the production is good enough to make me just be like, all right, this is all right. And I just don't have many feelings either way. Like, I don't dislike this album, but I don't really like it all that much either. I'm at like a strong 5 on this.
Strong 5. That's pretty good.
And Billie, I will keep an eye on Billie Eilish in the future because I think that she totally has potential to make an album that I would enjoy more. If she takes what I like about this album and runs with that rather than the stuff that I don't like about it, then I think that she could definitely make an album that I like a lot.
Okay. So this was kind of an experience for me. I haven't felt like this strongly about an album listening to it since No Borders Here. As I was listening to this, it made me think just a lot about my life, where I'm going with my life, what I've been through with my life. I don't know why this album in particular is the one that did that, but it was a trip, man. And each track is just fun, catchy, it's genuine, it's interesting, it keeps me hooked the whole way, it barely slogs except for maybe I Love You, but even then, just the delivery and the lyrics, there's cheesy ukulele on 8, there's, edgy lyrics on All the Good Girls Go to Hell, but I don't care. I really could care less because it's just so much, she's having so much fun. She's pouring her heart out there, man. I gotta say that. I had to say that at least once. I'm feeling a light to decent 10 on Billie Eilish.
Decent 10. I love
10.
that you
Well, you had to
give a
establish-
color to the 10.
And this could easily become like a 10-10. You know what I mean? Where
Sure.
just front to back, I'm having a blast.
Because you've had 10s on the show you like more, most likely. Get Lost and No Borders Here.
Get Lost and No Borders Here. So these are your three.
And
no,
Pain and Midgets with Guns.
Oh,
Midgets with
yeah,
Guns.
yeah.
Because maybe Get Lost I need to go back to, but just No Borders Here and Midgets with Guns, front to back, I'm having a blast.
Where is this stand in the 10s you've given on the show, do you think, Eilish? Where is she in the ranking? Like
in
top
the ranking,
4?
like,
Because it's probably Get Lost and Last right now.
Get Lost and Last. I don't know. No Borders Here and Billie Eilish, they kind of tied. This rattled my list. I thought I had like my solid one, but I don't.
Oh my God, I'm in. I did it! I got number 1!
Maybe. But Midgets with Guns is still the best, you know, for me.
You can't pick your own.
I know I can't, but I'm just saying that.
I'm gonna do it. I didn't think I was gonna do. I didn't think I was getting number 1 on anyone's list. I knew I wasn't getting it on Jacob's.
Look, because you could say this artist is cringy all you want, but goddamn, it's just front to back, so much fun, so catchy,
That's such a good
so
opinion.
genuine, and just so meaningful that like fucking Zanny, god damn, love this album.
Oh my God, dude, I did it. I'm number 1. I'm gonna beat you. Wait, actually, no. You said No Borders Here is better.
No, they're tied.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know.
God, I might get it.
No Borders Here will win. I will.
I'm gonna have to
win.
sack your number. You have my number 1. I'm gonna have to sack it to play favorites. I'm sorry. It's okay. I'll put like Coma ahead of it, so maybe in your head you can be like, okay, sure.
All right. Well, this has been Unwarranted Music Opinions.
Woo!
Next episode is a theme.
It's our final themed, boys.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I'm sad. It's underrated, isn't it?
Underrated albums. And the album that I'm going to choose for next week is by an artist that I heard when this album came out. It's Kieran J. Callinan. He's an Australian singer-songwriter, and he has a very unique style on his 2013 release, Embracism. I really have no idea what you all are going to think about it. I'm actually excited to talk about it, even if you hate it, because it's an interesting album, and I like it a lot. Personally, I think it's very underrated, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I am gonna go with Father John Misty's 2017 release, Pure Comedy. It's kind of an hour long. Like, dig into this one.
It's more an underrated album, not underrated artist, because everyone knows.
Yeah, it's an underrated. Yeah, because he has a strong debut. I think everyone loves it. Or his second studio album. Everyone loves his second studio album, which is a breakout in my opinion. I agree. But Pure Comedy is one that critically, in the majority, was kind of like people didn't like it, and I just think they're ridiculous because I think they just wanted something out of it. I think they wanted another Honey Bear, which topically is this is a departure from it's basically So I Love You Honey Bears is the one I'm talking about. That's his breakout, and he's just kind of like professing his love for his wife. And it's really sweet. And there are a couple of maybe semi-political tracks on there towards the end. And then they kind of lead into Pure Comedy, which is all social commentary, all, like complete social commentary. And people really dislike it. And I just think they're being fools. I really don't think they're giving this album a fair shake.
Those are some strong words there.
I just really don't understand. Like, it's gorgeous, but we'll talk about it.
So I've been back and forth of what I want to do for underrated. And it's funny that Jacob mentioned this band in the podcast. Wasn't expecting it, but Chumbawamba is one of the most underrated bands that need more love, need to be talked about more. They're not known for just one song. Even if that song, whether you love it or hate it, that does not define their entire discography by far.
He's getting mad.
I'm getting shook. We're going to talk about Chumbawamba, my guys. Their debut album, what better place to start than the beginning? Pictures of Starving Children sell records. This might be the album that wins Jacob over.
I think it's going to be awesome, actually.
Because it has elements of post-punk,
I haven't been this
folk,
excited in a
new
while.
wave. It's got all the things that are Jacob's
This is doing this and then our last sequels. These are the themed episodes I've most been excited. 100%.
Yeah, but it's like a 30-minute album. Its main selling point is that it's a criticism of Live Aid, which was a rock festival in charity for Africa. It's a lot that's the main criticism, but they touch on all types of different stuff. But yeah.
This has been Unwarranted Music Opinions. I'm Jacob Lindberg. I was here with Brian Courtney.
I love you. Goodbye.
Good Lord, that's a dark way to end the podcast.
Well, no, those
there.
songs are... You ruined it, man.
I didn't ruin it. You ruined it. And Chaz Jenkins.
Testing, 1, 2, 1, 2. This episode, I just want to say, is for all the fans of Unwarranted Music Opinions, and I especially want to thank the.
I gotta end this before everything goes crazy.